My parents treat the women in our family like second-class citizens, so we're fighting back. In my family, women were sent to isolation huts the moment they started bleeding. No contact, no conversation, just rice pushed through a slot twice a day. You were unclean, they said. Your presence would contaminate the men. I was 13 when I first entered the bleeding house. We only went to school 3 days a week, always scheduled around our cycles so no one would notice the pattern of absences. 7 days in complete darkness with only a bucket for a toilet. The smell alone made me vomit. By day 3, I was burning with fever from a pain. I later found it was a UTI LOL that spread to my kidneys. I begged through the slot for medicine, for water, for anything. My father slid in extra rice and told me suffering would make me pure. When they finally let me out, I could barely walk. The hospital doctor asked why I'd waited so long to come in. I almost died, she said. Another day and my kidneys would have shut down. And while I lay in the hospital bed, I wasn't going to waste my one opportunity of freedom. So I did what any normal teenage girl would do and picked up every brochure I could find. What I read was so shocking my eyes nearly popped out of my head, because that was the first time I learned about health codes, about how isolation without medical care was actually illegal, about what my family called tradition, the law called neglect. But I couldn't just call CPS. They'd take all us kids, split us up. I needed a different plan. I started researching online at the library, learned that vitamin C and parsley tea could induce periods early, that women living together often synced up their cycles naturally. That's when the idea hit me. Every month I started making tea, lots of tea. I taught my cousins and sisters the recipe during cooking lessons, showed them how to track their cycles on calendars hidden in recipe books. Within 6 months, I had 15 women syncing their periods to hit at the same time. The men never saw it coming. Suddenly they had 15 bleeding women, but only 6 isolation huts. While they scrambled to figure out who got locked up first, the rest of us were free. That's when phase 2 started. The women whose periods we'd delayed by a week suddenly had 7 days of complete freedom. They took GED classes at the community center, practiced driving in the church parking lot, went to job interviews at the mall. We got bolder. I taught them to extend their bleeding with theater blood. Just a few drops on a pad bought them extra days. Some girls were bleeding for 2 weeks straight while actually working part-time jobs, saving money in accounts their fathers didn't know existed. We kept calendars hidden everywhere, behind toilet tanks, inside tampon boxes, sewn into the lining of purses. 23 women's cycles mapped out like military operations. We knew exactly who would bleed when, who needed coverage for a job interview, who had a driving test scheduled. And for 2 years, it worked perfectly. Girls who'd never left the house alone were getting their licenses. Women who'd never touched money were building savings, all during their unclean time. Then the water bill came. My father stared at it during dinner, his face getting redder with each second. It was triple our normal usage. He started investigating immediately, checked every pipe, every faucet, convinced we had a leak. It took him 3 days to figure it out. 3 days of following the smell of boiling herbs, of noticing how many women were brewing tea at odd hours. He found me in the kitchen at midnight, teaching my 13-year-old cousin the recipe, calendars spread across the table, red marks tracking every woman's cycle, tea bags and vitamin C tablets lined up like evidence. You're making them bleed on purpose, he said, voice deadly quiet. I stood up slowly, meeting his eyes. Behind him, I could see my cousin memorizing the recipe, her lips moving silently. Even if he stopped me, she knew. They all knew. No, I said. I'm making them free. The beating came swift and hard. 1, 2, 3. And the whole time I was smiling, because somewhere across town, my sister was taking her driving test. My cousin was depositing her first paycheck. That night when I welcomed my father home, he smiled. Did you really think I didn't know? He asked, pulling out a calendar identical to mine. I've been tracking them too. Tomorrow, when all 30 bleed at once, they won't be going to the huts. He paused. They'll be going somewhere permanent. I froze, my blood turning to ice in my veins. Permanent? My mind raced through possibilities, each worse than the last. Behind me, my cousin's breathing quickened. I grabbed her wrist under the table, squeezing once. Stay calm. Father pulled out a stack of papers from his jacket. Marriage contracts. 30 of them. Each one already signed by the groom's families. My stomach churned as I recognized names. Men from neighboring communities who followed the same traditions. Men who needed obedient wives. Tomorrow's ceremony will solve our little problem, he said, spreading the contracts across the table like playing cards. 30 weddings during your synchronized bleeding. Too weak to run. Too ashamed to resist. My hands shook as I picked up the nearest contract. My name stared back at me, paired with a man 3 times my age. A widower with 4 children who needed a new mother. A man known for his heavy hands. You can't force us, I said, but my voice cracked. Force? Father laughed. You'll walk down that aisle yourselves. See? I've been busy too. He pulled out a small glass vial, clear liquid sloshed inside. Your special tea ingredients arrived yesterday, already mixed into every batch in the storage room. My cousin's hand flew to her mouth. We just distributed this week's tea supplies to all the women. They were probably brewing their evening cups right now. Sedatives, he continued, enough to make you compliant. Not unconscious, just cooperative. You'll say I do with smiles on your faces. I lunged for the vial, but he pocketed it smoothly. His hand caught my wrist, twisting until I gasped. Go to bed, he ordered. Big day tomorrow. I pulled my cousin upstairs, my mind spinning. In my room, we found my 11-year-old sister Megan sitting on my bed, clutching something under her sweater. I heard everything, she whispered, pulling out an old camcorder. The red recording light blinked steadily. Found this in the attic last month. Been recording stuff. My jaw dropped. Sweet, quiet Megan who played with dolls and drew butterflies. She fast-forwarded through footage, showing me clips. Father on the phone arranging the marriages. Him meeting with a doctor about forms. The doctor's words made my skin crawl, declaring them mentally incompetent. That's serious paperwork. I've been hiding under the porch during his meeting meetings, Megan said. He talks about getting disability checks, says incompetent women can't manage money, so husbands become payees. 30 women, government checks. The math made me sick. This wasn't just about control anymore. This was about money. We need to warn everyone, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I knew it was too late. The house was dark. Everyone had gone to bed. By morning, they'd all have hammered the tea. Megan held up the camera. What if we upload these? The library has Wi-Fi. It's closed until morning. I paced my room, stepping over the loose floorboard that had hidden our calendars. Think. The huts, my cousin said suddenly. If we burn them, everyone will wake up. We can warn them during the chaos. It was insane. It was dangerous. It was our only shot. We crept downstairs, avoiding the creaky third step. The matches were in the kitchen drawer, right where Mother kept them for the stove. Outside, the 6 isolation huts stood like dark sentries against the tree line, empty now, but waiting for tomorrow's victims. The first match wouldn't light. My hands shook too badly. The second caught, flame dancing in the wind. I touched it to the dried grass stuffed between the wooden slats. The fire caught slowly, then spread with hungry enthusiasm. The others, I hissed, and we ran hut to hut, lighting each one. By the time we reached the 6th, the first was fully engulfed. Smoke billowed into the night sky. The house erupted in shouts. Men stumbled outside in their nightclothes. Women peered from windows. In the chaos, I grabbed every woman I could reach. Don't drink the tea, I shouted over the roar of flames. It's drugged. Mass wedding tomorrow. Some heard me. Others were too focused on the fire. Father appeared through the smoke, his face twisted with rage. He spotted Megan filming the burning huts. Give me that. He lunged for her. Run. I shoved Megan toward the road. Library! Upload everything! She sprinted into the darkness, her small legs pumping. Father caught her at the fence, ripping the camera from her hands. The device shattered against a rock, but Megan kept running. She already uploaded it, I lied, praying she'd make it to the library. Father's hand connected with my face. Stars exploded across my vision. He dragged me back to the house while the men formed bucket brigades for the fires. No one called 911. That would bring questions. The basement door slammed behind me. Darkness swallowed everything except the thin line of light under the door. I felt along the walls, fingers catching on rough stone and old cobwebs. This basement had been off limits our whole lives. Father's office was down here, behind a locked door. The locked door that now stood slightly ajar. I pushed inside, feeling for a light switch. Harsh fluorescent bulbs revealed filing cabinets, a desk, boxes of papers. My hands moved frantically, pulling open drawers. Bank statements, medical forms, government letters. Each file had a woman's name. Each woman had been declared mentally incompetent. Each received disability benefits that went straight to Father's special account. 2 years of payments. 30 women at roughly $1,000 each per month. My stomach heaved. We weren't just property. We were income streams. A creaking board made me freeze. Footsteps above. They'd controlled the fires. Soon they'd come for me. I stuffed papers into my shirt, grabbed what I could carry. There had to be another way out. The coal chute. Every old house had one. I found it behind stacked boxes, painted shut, but not sealed. My fingernails tore as I pried at the edges. The metal groaned, then gave way. Cool night air rushed in. The chute was narrow, built for coal, not people. I squeezed through, rust flaking onto my clothes, emerged gasping behind the house. The hut still smoldered, casting orange light across the yard. The barn. That's where Father held community meetings, where 30 grooms would be waiting tomorrow. I had to get there first. I ran through the woods, branches tearing at my clothes. The familiar path felt foreign in darkness. Behind me, shouts indicated they'd discovered my escape. Let them search the woods. I had work to do. The barn loomed ahead, doors chained shut, but I knew about the loose board and back from years of hiding during gatherings. I squeezed through, dropping into musty hay. My phone had no signal, but the flashlight worked. I spread the stolen documents across the floor, photographing each one. Evidence of fraud, evidence of theft, evidence that would matter to authorities who didn't care about our traditions, but definitely cared about stolen government money. A sound made me freeze. Engines. Multiple vehicles approaching. Too early for wedding guests. I peered through a crack in the wall. Women, all of them, walking in neat lines with vacant smiles. The sedatives had worked. Behind them, men herded stragglers. Father led the procession, restored to calm control, but something was off. My cousin walked too steadily. My aunt's eyes tracked movement too sharply. They were faking. My heart soared. The warning had spread. They'd hammered the tea but stayed alert. 30 women pretending compliance while fully conscious, waiting. The barn doors swung open. Men filed in first, setting up chairs. Women entered last, directed to a holding area near the back. I stayed hidden in the loft, watching Father coordinate with obvious satisfaction. Brothers, he announced, today we solve our women problem permanently. That's when I noticed the box by the door. More tea. Enough to keep them sedated for traveling. These men planned to separate us immediately after the ceremonies, scatter us across 3 states. The grooms arrived in a convoy, 30 men examining their drugged brides like livestock. One grabbed my cousin's face, checking her teeth. She stayed limp, playing her part perfectly. Begin the ceremonies, Father commanded. The first couple approached the makeshift altar. I recognized the bride, one of our strongest rebels. She swayed on her feet, letting the groom hold her upright. The officiant opened his book. That's when everything shifted. The bride's eyes snapped into focus. Her elbow connected with the groom's solar plexus. He doubled over, gasping. Now, she shouted. 30 women moved as one. No longer drugged victims, but coordinated fighters. They'd been practicing more than just job skills during their freedom time. Self-defense videos at the library. Strength training at the community center. The barn erupted in chaos. Women who'd never raised their voices were throwing punches. Girls who'd been taught submission were fighting back. The men, caught completely off guard, stumbled over chairs and each other. I dropped from the loft, joining the fray. Together, we herded the men toward the barn's center. They fought back, but 30 determined women were were more than they'd bargained for. "The doors!" I shouted. My cousin and aunt were already there, threading chains through the handles. Others pushed heavy feed bins against exits. Within minutes, we'd reversed the trap. The men inside, us outside. "You can't leave us here!" Father raged through the wood. I pulled out my phone, finally getting signal. 3 digits. 911. "Emergency?" "Yes. I need to report a gas leak at the old Henderson barn. I think I smell propane. Please hurry." We retreated to the tree line to wait. The men pounded on doors, shouted threats, promised punishment. But sturdy barn construction worked both ways. Sirens wailed in the distance. Fire trucks appeared first, then police as backup. Standard procedure for gas leaks. They'd have to open the barn, check for danger. They'd find 30 angry men and ask questions. I slipped the fraud documents into the sheriff's truck through an open window. Let them find those while investigating. Let them wonder why 30 women's disability payments went to one man's account. The women melted into the woods. We had a plan for this too. The shelter address, memorized through songs disguised as lullabies. 3 cities over, far enough to start fresh. Van keys hidden months ago. Money saved dollar by dollar. By the time they opened the barn, we were gone. 30 women in 6 vehicles, heading toward freedom. Behind us, Father's empire crumbled. The fire department found no gas leak, but plenty of questions. The sheriff found financial crimes worth investigating. 6 months later, I unlocked the apartment door with my own key. My cousin looked up from her textbooks, highlighter in hand. 2 other women sat at our kitchen table, laptops open to online college courses. "How was work?" my cousin asked. "Good. Got promoted to shift supervisor." I hung up my name tag from the restaurant job. Real money, real independence. Megan called. She's doing great with her foster family. Says the prosecutor wants her testimony next month. Father's trial had made local news, not for the traditions, but for the fraud. 30 counts of financial exploitation. 30 women whose disabilities existed only on paper while they worked and studied and thrived. "Think they'll all come to the shelter reunion?" my aunt asked from the doorway. She lived downstairs with 3 others, all of us in the same building. 28 confirmed so far, I said. 2 had to work, but they're sending videos. I looked around our small apartment, secondhand furniture, discount store dishes, the most beautiful home I'd ever seen because it was ours, chosen by us, paid for by us. No locks except the ones that kept danger out instead of keeping us in. My phone buzzed. Another woman from our group texting about her first day at community college. Another success story, another life reclaimed. The tea kettle whistled on the stove. I smiled, pouring hot water over regular tea bags. No more calendars, no more synchronized cycles, no more using our bodies' natural rhythms as weapons. Now we had better weapons: education, employment, evidence, and freedom. Real, permanent, legal freedom. The kind that no tradition could ever take away again. I stared at the steaming cup, remembering how different everything had been just 6 months ago. The apartment door rattled with a knock that made all 4 of us freeze. We weren't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw a woman I didn't recognize. Middle-aged, professional clothes, clipboard in hand. My cousin moved behind me, tension radiating from her body. "Child Protective Services," the woman announced when I cracked the door open. "We're conducting welfare checks on all the women from the Henderson compound case." My stomach dropped. CPS meant questions. Questions meant scrutiny. Scrutiny meant potential problems for our carefully built new lives. "Everything's fine here," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We're all adults. I understand, but we need to verify living conditions and employment status for our records." She smiled, but her eyes scanned what she could see of our apartment. "May I come in?" I had no choice but to let her enter. She walked through our small space, making notes on her clipboard, asked about our jobs, our education plans, our support systems, professional and thorough, but something felt off about her questions. "Interesting that you all live in the same building," she observed. "The other women from your group, are they nearby too?" Warning bells rang in my head. We'd been careful to spread across 3 cities, but this building had become an unofficial hub. 8 of us lived here, drawn by cheap rent and mutual support. Coincidence, I lied. Good neighborhood, affordable prices. She made another note. After she left, I immediately called the others. Similar visits were happening across all 3 cities. Someone had triggered an investigation, and I had a sick feeling I knew who. The next morning, my shift supervisor pulled me aside at work. "There's been a complaint filed with corporate," she said quietly. "Someone claims you lied on your application about your education." My hands went cold. I hadn't lied, but my unconventional schooling made verification difficult. 3 days a week for years, with huge gaps for isolation. No official transcripts, no standard graduation. "I can explain," I started, but she held up a hand. "I believe you. But corporate wants documentation. You have 2 weeks to provide it, or..." She didn't need to finish. "Or I'd lose my job, my income, my independence." That afternoon, I found my cousin crying over her laptop. Her online college had received an anonymous tip about fraudulent enrollment documents. They were threatening to suspend her pending investigation. One by one, the calls came in. Jobs questioned, enrollments challenged, lease agreements scrutinized. Someone was systematically attacking every foothold we'd built. "It's orchestrated," my aunt said during an emergency meeting in our kitchen. "Someone who knows exactly where we work, where we study, where we live." We all knew who, but Father was supposed to be in custody awaiting trial. How was he reaching us from behind bars? The answer came through Megan during our weekly phone call. "His lawyer visits every day," she said. "And guess what? The lawyer has a son who's been making lots of phone calls and sending lots of emails." My hands clenched around the phone. Of course, Father couldn't act directly, but he could direct others, and his lawyer's son would do anything for the right price. "There's more," Megan continued, her voice dropping. "The prosecutor says Father's trying to make a deal. He'll plead guilty to lesser charges if he provides information about an underground network helping women escape religious communities." My blood ran cold. He was trying to flip the narrative, make us the criminals, turn our support system into something sinister. "We need those original documents, I said. The ones proving the fraud. Without them, it's his word against ours. But you uploaded them to the cloud, Megan said. I uploaded photos. The originals are still in Father's office. And guess who's been paying the mortgage to keep the compound intact? The lawyer, of course. Preserving evidence while they built their counter-narrative. That night, I couldn't sleep. Everything we'd built was crumbling. The other women were panicking. Some talked about running again, starting over somewhere else. But I knew that would only make us look guilty. We need to go back, I announced at breakfast. My cousin dropped her coffee mug. It shattered on the floor, brown liquid spreading like blood. You're insane. The original documents are still there. Physical evidence beats photos in court. And if Father's building a case against us, we need to know what he's planning. It's been 6 months. The place could be full of his supporters. It could be a trap. She was right. But watching our new lives dismantled piece by piece was worse than any physical danger. I'm going. Tonight. You don't have to come. By evening, 3 others had volunteered to join me. We couldn't all go. Someone needed to stay and keep fighting the false complaints. We loaded into my hit-up car. 4 women returning to the place we'd sworn never to see again. The compound looked different in the darkness. Smaller somehow. The burnt remains of the isolation huts had been cleared away, leaving bare patches of earth like scars. Only one light burned in the main house. We parked down the road, approaching on foot through familiar woods. Every snapping twig made my heart race. At the tree line, we stopped to observe. Guard, my cousin whispered, pointing to a figure smoking on the porch. Not Father's generation. Younger. The lawyer's son, maybe, or one of his friends. We circled around to the back, where I knew about a basement window that never latched properly. The window stuck at first, years of paint and grime holding it shut. When it finally gave way, the screech seemed to echo through the night. We froze, waiting. No response from the guard. I dropped through first, landing hard on concrete. The basement smelled of mold and abandoned spaces. Father's office door stood open, papers scattered across the floor like someone had been searching. Look for anything about disability claims, I whispered. Financial records, medical forms. We worked by phone flashlight, gathering documents. Most were copies of what I'd photographed before, but some were new. Letters from government agencies, bank statements showing money transfers, a ledger tracking payments to someone identified only as JM. Got it, my cousin breathed, holding up a folder. Original disability applications, with forged signatures. Footsteps creaked overhead. We froze, clicking off our lights. The footsteps paused directly above us. Had the guard heard something? The basement door opened. Light spilled down the stairs. I know you're down there, a male voice called. Not the guard, younger. Father said you'd come back for the papers. My heart hammered against my ribs. It was a trap. Of course it was a trap. James Morrison, the voice continued. Lawyer Morrison's son. Father's paying me good money to make your lives difficult. But here's the thing. He's not paying me enough. I exchanged glances with the others in the darkness. What game was this? You took 30 income streams from him. That's $30,000 a month in disability payments. He's offered me 10% to help get them back, but I'm thinking you might have a better offer. Greed. Simple, predictable greed. I stood slowly, still in shadows. What do you want? 20%. Cash. To stop making those calls and emails. Maybe even make some different calls, saying the complaints were all mistakes. We don't have that kind of money. No, but you have jobs. 30 women working means 30 paychecks. I'm patient. Behind me, my cousin's hand found mine. Squeezed once. The old signal. Stay calm. We need proof you can actually stop this, I said. He laughed. Check your phones in the morning. Every complaint will be withdrawn. But that's just a good faith gesture. You have 1 week to decide. His footsteps retreated. The door closed. We waited in darkness, barely breathing, until we heard his car engine fade into distance. It's another trap, someone whispered. Maybe. But trap or not, we had what we came for. We stuffed documents into bags, moving quickly now. The guard was gone from the porch. Too easy, too convenient. We made it back to the car without incident. As we drove away, I kept checking mirrors, expecting pursuit. Nothing. Just dark road and sleeping towns. He's playing both sides, my cousin said. Taking money from Father while extorting us. Or Father's using him to find out where we all are, track our movements, build his case about an underground network. Back at the apartment, we spread out the new documents. The ledger was damning. Payments to JM for investigative services, names and addresses of all 30 women, work schedules, school enrollments, everything needed to systematically destroy our new lives. But there was more. Plans for after the trial. Even if Father went to prison, he'd arranged for others to continue collecting disability payments. The women would be declared missing, not escaped. The checks would keep coming to accounts controlled by his associates. We need to get this to the prosecutor, my aunt said. We need copies first, and backup plans. If James is playing both sides, these could disappear. We worked through the night, scanning everything, uploading to multiple cloud services, emailing copies to ourselves and trusted allies. By dawn, we'd created an evidence trail that couldn't be easily destroyed. True to James's word, the complaints started withdrawing that morning. My supervisor called, confused but relieved. The college reinstated my cousin's enrollment. One by one, the attacks on our lives stopped, but I knew it was temporary. James would want his payment. Father would want his income streams. The prosecutor would want testimony. Everyone wanted something from us. That's when Megan called with news that changed everything. The judge ruled on discovery. Father's lawyer has to turn over all documents, including anything about hiring investigators, the ledger, the payments to JM. It would all come out in discovery. James Morrison wouldn't just be exposed as an extortionist, he'd be implicated in witness tampering. We need to warn him, my cousin said. Why? He tried to destroy our lives. Because if he panics, he might do something desperate, and we're the ones he'll blame. She was right. A cornered snake was the most dangerous. I called the number James had left, but it went straight to voicemail. By afternoon, news broke that lawyer Morrison had withdrawn from Father's case. Conflict of interest, the article said. That evening, James showed up at our building. Not the cocky extortionist from the compound, but a scared young man man who just realized how deep he was in. "You have to help me," he begged through the intercom. "My father found out what I did. He's cutting me off. Says I'm on my own when the charges come." I almost laughed. The irony of him begging us for help. But my cousin, ever practical, saw opportunity. "We'll help," she said into the intercom. "If you testify." Testify? Against your father? About everything. The payments, the harassment campaign, what father planned to do with the disability money. Silence stretched, then quietly. "They'll destroy me. They're already destroying you. At least this way. You're on the right side." We met him at a coffee shop, public and well lit. He looked younger up close, maybe mid-20s, scared and desperate, the way we'd all felt 6 months ago. "I have recordings," he admitted. "Father made me record conversations in case any of you tried to recant, but they also recorded him, talking about the fraud, planning to continue it." My pulse quickened. Audio evidence, father's own words. It was better than any document. "We'll help you get immunity," I said, "in exchange for everything. Recordings, documents, testimony." He nodded, defeated. "I just wanted easy money. I didn't realize that we were people," my cousin finished coldly. "That we had lives you were destroying?" He flinched. Good. Let him feel a fraction of what we'd felt. The prosecutor was thrilled with our new witness. James Morrison, Jr. turned over hours of recordings. Father's voice, clear and damning, explaining how to forge medical documents, how to maintain control of disability payments, how to track down escaped women and force them back into compliance. But father wasn't done fighting. From his cell, he managed one last move. A letter to every woman's biological family, parents who'd disowned daughters, siblings who'd shunned sisters, detailed letters about where we lived, where we worked, how to find us. The first confrontation happened at my restaurant. My mother, whom I hadn't seen since the escape, standing by the host station. Older, grayer, but with the same disapproving eyes. "You're coming home," she announced, as if 6 months hadn't passed, as if I wasn't an adult with a job and apartment. "I am home," I replied, proud that my voice didn't shake. "This isn't home. This is sin. Living with unmarried women, working among strangers. Your father says, father is in jail for fraud, 30 counts of it." She flinched but rallied. "He made mistakes, but the principle remains. You belong with your family. The family that locked me in a dark hut until my kidneys nearly failed." Customers were staring. My supervisor appeared, ready to intervene, but I didn't need saving anymore. "Leave," I said quietly, "and don't come back. I have a restraining order prepared. Next time, I'll file it." She left, but others weren't so easily deterred. My cousin's brothers showed up at her college. My aunt's husband tried to access her bank accounts. One by one, our biological families attempted to reclaim us, but we'd learned, we'd prepared. Restraining orders were filed. Security was notified at our jobs and schools. We moved in groups, never alone. The building's other tenants, who'd initially been wary of 8 women from a cult, became our fiercest protectors. "Anyone bothers you, you let me know," our elderly neighbor told me. "I've got a baseball bat and nothing but time." The trial date approached. 30 women subpoenaed to testify. We met at the shelter to prepare, all of us together for the first time since the escape. Some had thrived. Jobs, education, relationships. Others struggled with trauma, with adjustment, with freedom itself. "I still wake up sometimes thinking I'm in the hut," one woman admitted. "The darkness, the smell, it never fully leaves." We shared our struggles and victories. The woman who'd earned her GED in 2 months. The one who'd started her own cleaning business. The 3 who'd enrolled in nursing school together. Each story a testament to resilience, but also the hard truths. The one who'd returned to an abusive boyfriend because at least he didn't lock her in a hut. The 2 who'd developed anxiety so severe they could barely leave their apartments. The several who still flinched when men raised their voices. "We survived," I reminded them. "That's what matters. We survived, and we're free, and no one can take that away." The night before the trial, father made one last play. His new lawyer filed a motion claiming mental incompetence. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The man who'd declared 30 women incompetent now claimed he couldn't stand trial due to religious delusions. "He's faking," the prosecutor assured us. The psychiatric evaluation was clear. He knows exactly what he did, but it added delays. More time for our families to harass us. More time for doubt to creep in. Some women talked about not testifying. Why relive the trauma? Why face him again? "Because other girls are still trapped," Megan said during a group call. She was the youngest among us, but often the wisest. "In other compounds, other families. They need to see it's possible to escape, that justice exists." She was right. This wasn't just about us anymore. Word had spread through whisper networks. Women in similar situations were watching, waiting to see if we'd succeed. The morning of jury selection, I woke to find a package at my door. No return address. Inside, a single photo. Me, at age 13, entering the isolation hut for the first time. On the back, in father's handwriting, "You were pure once." My hands shook, but not from fear, from rage. He still didn't understand. Purity wasn't about isolation or suffering. It was about truth, and we were about to tell ours. At the courthouse, 30 women gathered. Different ages, different stages of healing, but united in purpose. Some wore traditional dress, reclaiming it on their own terms. Others wore business suits, college sweatshirts, work uniforms. All of us wore courage. "Ready?" I asked my cousin. She squeezed my hand. Our old signal, transformed. No longer stay calm, but stay strong. "Ready," she confirmed. We walked into the courthouse together. 30 women who'd been declared incompetent, proving our competence. 30 income streams reclaiming their humanity. 30 voices ready to speak truth. The bailiff called the court to order. Father sat at the defense table, smaller than I remembered, older, diminished. He tried to catch my eye, but I looked past him to the gallery, to the other women still trapped who'd come to watch, to the future we were building. The prosecutor stood. "Your Honor, the state calls its first witness." I rose, steady on my feet. No more hiding, no more silence, no more darkness. Time to let the light in. I took the witness stand, my hands steady despite father's burning stare. The prosecutor approached with documents I'd photographed in that barn 6 months ago. "Can you identify these papers?" she asked. I explained each forged disability form, each fraudulent signature. The gallery filled with whispers. Father's new lawyer objected repeatedly, but the evidence spoke louder than his protests. During cross-examination, the defense attorney tried painting us as ungrateful daughters who'd abandoned family values. I answered each question with facts: medical records from my kidney infection, bank statements showing stolen disability payments, names of women who'd never been mentally incompetent. When I stepped down, my cousin took my place, then another woman, then another. Each testimony built our case stronger. Father's expression shifted from confident to concerned to desperate. On day 3, James Morrison Jr. took the stand. His recordings played through the courtroom speakers. Father's voice, clear and calculating, explaining how to forge documents, how to control women through isolation, how to steal government money meant for actual disabled people. Father lunged from his chair. "Lies! That boy's a liar!" The bailiffs restrained him while the judge called for order. But the damage was done. The jury saw his rage, his loss of control, the same rage we'd lived under for years. During a recess, I found Megan in the hallway. Her foster parents stood protectively nearby, good people who'd taken her in after everything fell apart. "You're doing great," I told her. She hugged me tight. "I'm scared to testify tomorrow. Remember what you told us? Other girls need to see this." I pulled back, meeting her eyes. "You're the bravest of us all." That night, Father tried one more manipulation. His brother, my uncle, appeared at our apartment building, not to threaten, but to bargain. "The family's willing to drop everything," he said through the intercom. "Return the money you've earned, come home, and all is forgiven." My cousin laughed beside me. Actually laughed. "Forgiven? We're not the ones on trial for fraud. This is destroying our community," he pleaded. "Other families are questioning traditions. Young women are refusing isolation. You've ruined everything." "Good," I said, and clicked off the intercom. But his words stuck with me. We were changing things. Our escape had created ripples. Other women in similar communities were finding courage to resist. The next morning, Megan testified. 12 years old now, but speaking with clarity that made grown men shift uncomfortably. She described finding the camcorder, recording Father's meetings, watching him forge signatures while talking about money. He said women's minds were too weak to handle finances, she testified, but he needed our names for the checks. Father's lawyer tried to discredit her, too young to understand, influenced by bitter sisters. But Megan held firm, answering each challenge with simple truth. The prosecution's final witness shocked everyone. Dr. Patricia Williams, the physician who'd signed off on our disability assessments. She'd cut a deal for immunity in exchange for testimony. "He paid me $500 per form," she admitted, "told me the women were too religious to speak for themselves. I never examined any of them. 30 forms, $15,000 in bribes, plus monthly kickbacks from the disability payments. The money trail led deeper than we'd known. Father's defense was weak. Religious freedom, cultural traditions, misunderstandings about paperwork. His new lawyer struggled to make coherent arguments from incoherent justifications. When Father himself took the stand, he sealed his fate. Instead of showing remorse, he doubled down. Women needed guidance. Isolation built character. The money was for the family's benefit. "Those girls owe everything to me," he declared. "I gave them purpose." The prosecutor's response was surgical. Purpose? By locking them in huts during menstruation? Tradition demands. By stealing disability benefits? Managing family resources? By arranging forced marriages? Ensuring suitable matches? Each answer dug him deeper. The jury watched him hang himself with his own words. No remorse, no recognition of wrongdoing, just a man angry that his control had slipped. During closing arguments, our prosecutor laid out the case methodically. Fraud, theft, false imprisonment, conspiracy. The evidence was overwhelming. The defense's closing felt hollow. Appeals to religious freedom fell flat against evidence of financial crimes. Requests for leniency sounded absurd after Father's defiant testimony. We waited 3 days for the verdict. 3 days of pacing, of mutual support, of preparing for any outcome. Some women stayed in the courthouse every day. Others couldn't bear to be there. When the call came, we rushed back. The courtroom packed with our supporters. Media filled the back rows. This case had gained attention, not for the sensational details, but for what it represented. Women fighting back against systemic oppression. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" the judge asked. "We have, Your Honor." My cousin gripped my hand as the foreman stood. "On count 1, fraud in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty. Guilty, guilty, guilty. 30 counts of fraud, guilty. Conspiracy, guilty. False imprisonment, guilty." Father's face went white with each verdict. His lawyer whispered urgently, but there was nothing left to say. The evidence had spoken. Sentencing would come later, but we'd won the crucial battle. The conviction meant the disability payments would stop. The fraud was officially recognized. Our truth was validated in court.